In 1994, some strange things happened in sports. No Jimmy Johnson on the sidelines, no hockey, no World Series, and who would have predicted this statement? Hi, I'm Kevin Kennedy, manager of the Boston Red Sox, tonight on Sports Wave.
Live from Miami Grill in Dallas, Texas, with the music of Emerald City, this is Sports Waves. Now, here's your host, Mike Doocy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sports Waves. I'm Mike Doocy. Glad you could be with us. Good show coming up over the next hour or so. Usually we concentrate on the National Football League, but we dip into other sports from time to time. Hockey, for example, and tonight, baseball. Kevin Kennedy has made a quick change from Texas to Boston. He's now the manager of the Boston Red Sox, pulled off a big trade during the past week. We'll talk with Kevin Kennedy in a little while. And we'll talk a lot of football as well. Jim Jeffcoat of the Dallas Cowboys, 12-year veteran, joins us. And Mike Tomczak of the Pittsburgh Steelers, a quarterback who's been in the league 10 years himself. That's coming up later on the show. But now, welcome my co-host. This man was voted one of the 10 sexiest men in Dallas. I did not have a vote. The playmaker, Michael Irvin.
You had to throw that in there.
Yeah, you knew you were going to get a hard time about that. We're going to have more on that special honor for Michael coming up in just a few minutes. Cowboys coming off a tough loss this past weekend, the Saturday loss to Cleveland. Anybody who saw the game knows that the Cowboys came literally just inches away from winning that football game. And this might be a strange question to a team that's 11-3 right now, but are the Cowboys okay right now, do you think?
Oh, we're fine. We really are fine. We hit a slump. Quite honestly, we hit a slump, and it was a funny time for it because you see we had been battling with the backup quarterbacks, and Troy comes in, and I think it was a thing where everybody was just trying to do too much instead of just playing football and letting it happen.
You said you hit a slump, and I know you've been quoted as saying that you weren't physical enough in that football game. Was there just not enough to play for Saturday?
Well, there's always something to play for. I mean, we're a bunch of football players with a lot of pride on the line, and we got a goal that we're trying to accomplish. There's always something to play for. But basically, we weren't as physical as we needed to be. They played like it was do or die, and we didn't play like it was do or die. And that's how we got to step on the football field every single down.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, Michael was named one of the 10 sexiest men in Dallas by a local magazine, D Magazine. Judge for yourself. Take a look at the photo shoot that the magazine did for Michael Irvin.
Told me to just look suave, you know, cool. Things that make ladies melt. I don't know what makes them melt.
I'm too sexy for my shirt, too sexy for my shirt, so sexy it hurts.
His charisma, his magnetism, really the joy he has with what he does.
And I'm too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan.
There it is. Michael, I think the question that everybody is dying for me to ask is, how long have you been sexy?
You know what? I didn't know I was sexy, to tell you the truth. Hey, they forced me to do it. I don't know. I don't know.
The clothes looked great. I'll tell you that much. Right?
That's what it is. It's Lombardo's in the clothing. That's what it is.
Well, we've got some questions from our audience tonight. Michael Irvin. Let's go now into our studio audience with Maddie.
Thank you very much, Mike. And Michael, thank you for being here. Angela has a question. You would have gotten her vote.
Michael, which uniform do you think is more sexy, the old ones or the new ones?
Well, I like the old uniforms, to tell you the truth. I think the new uniforms are nice, but I'm kind of a traditionalist. I like the old uniforms. I mean, that's more Dallas Cowboys, those old uniforms.
All right, more questions from the audience coming up a bit later. First, let's take a look at our Waveline questions. First, we take a look back at last week's Waveline question. That question was, will Jimmy Johnson coach again? He apparently is going to make a decision soon. We'll ask Michael about that coming up. But the majority fell, actually it was a tie, wasn't it? 42% feel he will. 42% think he'll coach, but only if he can coach by remote control from his house. 16% said no. Our new Waveline question. Simply, which is the best team in the NFL right now? San Francisco, Dallas, or some other team? 1-800-700-9002, the number for the Waveline. Kevin Kennedy has been in the news a lot lately because of the big trade that he pulled off this past week. The new Boston Red Sox manager will be joining us coming up here shortly on Sports Waves tonight. Again, it's Kevin Kennedy, former Rangers manager, now with the Boston Red Sox. Also coming up, Mike Tomczak, Steelers quarterback. He's been the backup for most of the year, but he's helped them come up with a couple of big victories. He'll talk about the Steelers and whether the AFC's finally pulled even with the NFC in the National Football League. Also, we'll introduce you to the Dallas Cowboys defensive lineman who has nearly 100 career sacks. We're not talking about Charles Haley, but Jim Jeffcoat. He'll be along when we come back on Sports Waves after this from our sponsor.
And I'm Paige Langton. Sports Waves is brought to you by Europa Sea Cruise, fun you can bet on. By American Airlines, something special in the air. By the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, the world's largest hotel, casino, and theme park. And by Miami Subs Grill, great food served fast. We'll be right back with cover boy Jim Jeffcoat, so don't go changing that channel.
Welcome back to Sports Waves. In 1983, the Dallas Cowboys selected in the draft Jim Jeffcoat out of Arizona State with their first pick. He joined a defensive line that featured Hall of Famer Randy White, perhaps future Hall of Famers Ed Jones and Harvey Martin. He has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly with the Dallas Cowboys throughout the years. An outstanding 12-year career. Take a look at more from Jim Jeffcoat.
Dallas on their first round selection picks defensive end Jim Jeffcoat.
I always love a challenge, and this is the biggest challenge of my life.
When the Cowboys drafted Jim Jeffcoat, they knew they were drafting a defensive power. But what about his nose for the football and the end zone?
Stabler fumbles the ball. It's loose in the end zone. The Cowboys are there. Oh, no, I can't believe it.
It's batted out and intercepted. Jim Jeffcoat will score.
You can't get over emotional on one play. I was choked up. I was hugging guys. I never felt like kissing a 270-pound football player like I did when Jeffcoat ran that ball in for a touchdown.
Tipped and intercepted and run back inside the 15 by Jeffcoat.
I'm glad it was on national TV because a lot of teams are going to have something to think about now.
In 12 seasons, Jim Jeffcoat has given NFL teams, especially quarterbacks, a lot to think about. And now, welcome to Sports Waves from the Dallas Cowboys. Here's Jim Jeffcoat. Jim, how you doing?
How you doing, Mike? Good to be here. Mike.
Michael seemed to get a real chuckle out of some of that videotape. I don't know what that was about.
Jim looks real young, man. That's not to say he looks old now. Jim looks good. He's doing a great job keeping himself in shape.
Well, I guess the first question has to do with your longevity. You've been around 12 seasons now. I know you've been asked this before, but you probably felt at one time that you wouldn't last this long. What's been the secret to you staying around?
The secret of my success is to have guys like Michael Irvin around, always pushing you, always making you better. Really, when you see guys work as hard as Michael Irvin and Tony Tolbert, the Leon Letts, guys out there that give the effort, makes you give more effort, and you want to be a part of that.
Well, Jeff, as you get older, do you change your regiment in the offseason? Because I know, man, my regiments in the offseason are getting harder and harder. I mean, it's a little hard this year than it was last year. Do you change it as the years go on?
Not really. What you really do is you concentrate on the things that you necessarily need to make yourself a competitive player. You concentrate on maybe conditioning if you need the conditioning, or concentrate on moves to make yourself like you do with your pass catching in the off season. I do that with my pass rushes and the moves that I need to be successful.
I asked Michael about this, but the Cowboys lose a tough one this past Saturday. How's the Dallas defense playing right now? There were stretches in the season that the defense seemed to carry the team from time to time. Has there been a letdown in the last 3 games at all?
To be honest with you, Mike, I think there has. I don't think we're playing at the intensity that we played in the previous years, and that's the thing we have to get back to, playing at that intensity, playing at that high level, because this is the most important time of the season. When you're getting ready to go into the playoffs, you have to be playing at a high intensity, especially on defense.
Let's go to our studio audience now. Question for Jim Jeffcoat. Here's Mark Meter.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. I'm with Chris Johnson. He's lived in Dallas all his life, and he's been a Dallas Cowboys fan all his life, and he's excited about asking a question to Jim Jeffcoat. Chris?
Mr. Jeffcoat, you've been a part of the team to be able to play with all 3 coaches. Which coach do you like playing for the best?
Coach Landry, Coach Johnson, Coach
You didn't
Swift.
tell me you're going to ask questions like that. But I like something about each coach. I can't say which coach I like best. I'm having a book come out, so it'll be in my book. But I can really tell you a little bit about each coach and what their qualities was. Coach Landry, what his thing was, he was very organized. He did everything. He ran the offense and the defense, and he was that kind of coach. He knew offense and defense, and he could. He designed his own defense. He designed his own offense. That's why he was so successful. Coach Johnson, probably out of all the coaches I've ever been around, was the most determined. He willed teams to win a lot of times because of his personality. You just have to be around a person like that to really appreciate him, because he willed you a lot of times. You didn't know if you could do it, but he made you believe that you could do it. Coach Switzer is probably the most unique. He's probably the best communicator. He gets guys to do him because they really they like him a lot. They appreciate having a guy like that because he's so honest and straightforward. And you meet few people like that in your lifetime, and I'm fortunate enough to play for all 3 of these coaches.
Well, I think that's a great assessment of all
Really
3
is.
of those coaches.
Really is. Really diplomatic, too. Good job.
Yeah, that's the way to stay there. Jim, what I want to know is, we see Cleveland come in and basically say, okay, we're going to run the ball down your throat. How do you deter teams in the future from saying the same thing? We're just going to run the ball down your defense's throat.
Well, actually, what we have to do, Michael, is swarm. We have to get back to the intense play that we've been doing over, like I said, the previous years and the beginning of the season. We have to really swarm, and there can't be just 1 or 2 guys on the tackle. There has to be 7 or 8 or 9. Everybody has to play with that desire. When we couldn't get any respect, Pro Bowl player, we played with that intensity. Last year, when we only got 1 or 2 guys on there, we played with that intensity. This year, we have a possibility of getting more. We have to play with that intensity to be successful in the playoffs, because that's all that really matters.
We have more with Jim Jeffcoat coming up here on Sports Waves. Also, we'll go to Pittsburgh via satellite in a little bit, talk with Mike Tomczak about the Steelers and the AFC. Also later, the new manager of the Boston Red Sox, former Texas Rangers manager Kevin Kennedy, joins us to talk about the Canseco trade and more. First now, Sports Waves has a special announcement. How would you like to win a trip to the Super Bowl, courtesy of Sports Waves and Miami Subs Grill? Maddie Caldwell has details.
Most people think it's really hard to get to the Super Bowl, but not with Sports Waves and Miami Subs. Come into any Miami Subs Grill in Dallas to register for 2 free tickets to Super Bowl 29 in Miami, including airfare for 2 on American Airlines, accommodation at the Key Largo Bay Beach Resort, and if that weren't enough, you can also accompany the Sports Waves crew on assignment. So come into any Miami Subs in Dallas and register today.
the Emerald City Band on Sports Waves. I'm Mike Doocy. Welcome back. Michael Irvin and Jim Jeffcoat are here right now. Guys, I'm sure you both got a big kick out of the 40-page Sports Illustrated article. I'm not going to even ask you about the SI jinx because I know you're going to tell me you don't believe in it. But Jim, I think one of the, I guess, the more poignant photographs had you with your children in your home. You were giving them the old horseback ride here as you take a look right there. Talk a little bit about your family and what their support has meant throughout your 12-year career and how your back can stand that. What are you doing?
Well, first of all, Jackson was trying to choke me. That's my young. Speak of Jackson, hey Jack, how you doing?
There he is. All right, Jackson.
This one, he's my defensive lineman. He's going to be a 300-pounder. Runs about a 4.5. Lift the world. I'm training him right now. I got a quarterback at home too, so the quarterback was in the back. So, but yeah, my family means a lot to me. I've been very fortunate to have a wonderful wife and 3 healthy kids. I went down to actually the Children's Medical Center earlier today, and just you really feel blessed when you have healthy children, and you realize that how fortunate you are to have them.
And your kids are quite often with you, I know, in the locker room after games, so you try to get them, I don't know if you want to say involved, but try to spend as much time as you can even during the season with them.
I really do. I try to spend as much time as possible because my father worked long hours and he didn't have the opportunity to spend time with me, so I try to pay it back by spending time with my children.
Jackson, who's your favorite football player? Jim Jeffcoat. I heard him say it. He said it. He started to say Troy, and then he said Jim Jeffcoat.
Way to go, guy.
Let's go to the studio audience. Maddie Caldwell standing by.
Thank you, Mike, and we are very, very lucky to have players like Jim Jeffcoat on the team. Barry has a question for Mr. Jeffcoat.
Yeah, hi, Jim. I wanted to know, how has the game changed from your rookie year to now as far as changes that you noticed from your rookie year?
The biggest change is in the offensive line, probably. When you had big guys over 300 pounds, they usually looked overweight. Now you have guys like Mark Tuinay, who's over 300 pounds, Ron Stone, who's 315, Eric Williams, and these guys are not just big guys that look overweight. These guys are very good athletes, and that's the biggest thing I see is the athleticism of the big guys that I play against now.
Well, we had the Pro Bowl voting, and this digress a little bit. We had Pro Bowl voting day, and we split up offense and defense. So I don't know, and I'm curious. Without Eric in the game, Eric Williams, our offensive tackle, the best in the world. Who did y'all vote as the starting offensive tackles?
Well, we voted Lomas Brown and Willie Roth, but obviously they're not anywhere close to being an Eric Williams. But we didn't have a choice. We couldn't vote for our own teammate.
Yeah, that's true. I was interested to see in training camp the way the offense and the defense would go after one another, especially when the practices got long and the days got a little bit hot. How much competition is there, even as the season goes on, between the two units?
Don't talk about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition.
There's a lot of competition.
It really, especially on Thursdays when we have 2 minutes. Jeffcoat and I, we have a running gentleman wage of just about $20 because we go 2-minute drill, and they'll put us on the 30-yard line. We got 70 yards to go. We need a touchdown with a minute and a half left, and basically what we had Saturday, we didn't score, and we usually score against our defense. we have won the majority of it, Jeffcoat. You know, in your pocket, that we won most of the time.
But the thing is, Alvin Harper and Michael Irvin always push off. It's well known around the league, so.
Jim,
they never call penalties out there.
Before we let you go, we'd like to thank you for coming in. You'll receive a free suit courtesy of Lombardo, and we know you'll enjoy that. And Jackson, thanks for coming in to you, too. Merry Christmas to you, buddy.
Merry Christmas.
The better half of the Irvin family, you'll be seeing her in just a moment as well as we go to break here at Sports Wave. We're back in a moment. We're back on Sports Waves. The battle for supremacy in the NFC may be a two-team race. The AFC, a bit more wide open. Any one of 6 teams has a chance to represent the conference when you look at it in the Super Bowl. Joining us now to talk about that and more, one of the teams that could very well be in the hunt for a Super Bowl berth, Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomczak. Tomczak has started 2 games for the Steelers, both wins, threw a couple of touchdown passes and a win over the Raiders. This week, the Steelers have a huge game against the arch-rival Cleveland Browns. Welcome via satellite from the Steel City, Mike Tomczak. Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining us. This is Mike Doocy. Michael Irvin is alongside as well. I don't think a lot of people, when the Cowboys opened with the Steelers, given the way that game went, would have guessed that at this point of the season, both of those teams would be 11-3. Steelers have really come on and become a very solid football team. How do you feel about the way the club has performed?
Well, I feel very confident. I think we matured a great deal since our first game against Dallas, and things, as Michael would attest to, things have started to materialize here in Pittsburgh, and we're playing good, sound football right now.
Mike, do y'all not, I watch you guys play, and I see you do a lot of blitzing. You blitz the cornerbacks, you blitz safeties. I mean, you do a lot of blitzing. Do you not worry about leaving those cornerbacks on the island one-on-one with top receivers?
I think the only time we do that is when we play San Francisco and Dallas. But in the AFC, we don't, we get after the quarterback pretty good, and I think what happened in the Dallas game against you guys, Troy was so sound and so drilled at getting rid of the ball very quickly, we didn't have a chance to get to him. And the last couple of weeks, the last 6 weeks, I should say, we got after those opposing quarterbacks pretty well.
Talk about your role with this team. It's one you've grown accustomed to a certain extent over the years. You've come on a couple of times this year, really performed well. O'Donnell is the starting quarterback. How do you look at your role, and how do you deal with your role as a 10-year veteran?
Well, I think my role is pretty simple. I was brought into this organization as a backup quarterback, and I've told many people that, and I told myself many times too, I've played enough games to satisfy my ego. I think right now I'm just having fun. The camaraderie is fantastic, and you know, there's some great athletes in the National Football League. I'm just happy to be a part of it all. And what happened in Chicago and Green Bay and Cleveland for me, I'm just very fortunate to have had that happen to me. And now in Pittsburgh, if I can attribute to the team and help them out along the way and find those fast receivers downfield and not get hit too much, I could play another 5 years.
Let's go to our studio audience. Mark Meter with an audience question. Mark?
Thank you very much, Mike. And I'm with Pam Cox. She's such a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. She came all the way from Greenville, South Carolina to get the chance to ask Mike Tomczak a question. Pam?
Mr. Tomczak, what is the difference going into a game as a backup quarterback versus a starter quarterback?
Well, obviously, you get the reps in practice if you're a starting quarterback throughout the course of the week. As a backup, you just get to sit and watch film, and hopefully your number won't be called on Sunday afternoon. But if it is called, it's like a backup pitcher in baseball. You got to go out there and give it your best shot, and hopefully things go out well for you.
Another audience question. Here's Maddie.
Lyris is all the way from New York City. We've got him from all over the country tonight. Lyris, what's your question?
My question is, Mike, since you've been playing in the NFL, who is the biggest flake you ever played with?
Too many of them, and considering myself as well. We're all flakes. They're all professional athletes are very flaky. You got to be a little crazy to play this game because it's a contact sport, but we had a guy in Cleveland, I won't mention his name, but before every game, he was an offensive lineman. He used to run 5 miles before every game and then go out and play 60 minutes of the football game. And he had a little hypertension disease, and he overcame that by running 5 miles before the game.
Wow. See, I would have guessed when you were asked that question that maybe a certain quarterback that you played with in Chicago might have come to mind, but I guess not, huh?
No, she asked me a player. Now, if she would have said coach, I might have said that guy, Mike Ditka, in Chicago.
I saw that earlier in the year on NBC, Ditka said that you were fine as long as you were just starting in like 2 or 3 game stretches, but over the long haul, you weren't going to be able to do it. How did that strike you?
Well, just like everything does, everyone has an opinion. And I don't see Mike Ditka's name in the Hall of Fame or anything for quarterback, but I do see it for tight end.
Okay, Mike, being in Pittsburgh, and like he said, the start you guys had against us, and I wouldn't have bet you guys have been 11-3. As a matter of fact, the same record that we happen to have around here. But do y'all have that attitude, that drive, what it takes to get to the Super Bowl?
You know, good question. Early in the year, you know, we were just hoping to win in the fourth quarter. And I think over the last 12 weeks, you know, after the Dallas game, after the Cleveland game, we decided to say, hey, we expect to win. And I remember in Chicago when we went to the Super Bowl, every time we took the field, we expected to win. There was no hesitation, you know, no wrong feelings by any player on the team, especially the coaching staff and players. And I'm sure you attested to that the last 3 years down in Dallas. And it's a feeling that once it materializes, it's a hard feeling to erase from your mind.
Well, now you've got the Browns, a team that just knocked off the Cowboys, a battle for division supremacy. How do you look at the matchup?
Very even. Very even. I'm going to pick Michael's brain here in about 2 seconds. How do we beat the Browns? I mean, they have a stingy defense. And maybe, hopefully, we'll have a dry surface on Sunday afternoon, because I know we learned one thing about your game against Cleveland on Saturday afternoon, that make sure we have the proper footing and the proper shoes when we take the field, because you never know when it's going to come back to haunt you. But this game's evenly matched up. You know, we're excited. The people in Pittsburgh are excited. And I'm sure there's a lot of people around the National Football League that are looking forward to this game.
Mike Tomczak, thanks for joining us. You've been a classy guy in the league for a lot of years now, and continued success to you. Mike Tomczak from Pittsburgh. Kevin Kennedy's coming up next. We'll talk about whether there will even be baseball in 1995, and if so, what it holds for his new team. Also talk about that Ken Seiko trade. The rest of us will have to wait for Santa Claus. He'll be along with the Pick 3 coming up, and some other crazy stuff going on in the audience here on Sports Waves. There's Santa. That and more when we return. Stay with us. Sports Waves is coming right back.
Had to be you. I wandered around, finally found somebody cool. Could make me be blue, could make me be true, could make me be glad, just to be sad, thinking of you. Some others I've seen.
Welcome back to Sports Waves. Mike Doocy with Michael Irvin and Keller and Jaime. Congratulations. Let's hear it for them. Yeah. You look like you were worried what the answer was going to be there. No, congratulations. Best of luck. Kind of a first here on Sports Waves, an engagement announcement anyway. Okay, we're back on Sports Waves. We've been talking some football. We're going to talk some baseball now. Kevin Kennedy was manager of the Texas Rangers, now manager of the Boston Red Sox. How quickly things can change in sports and in Major League Baseball. Kennedy, well, he pulled off a major trade here over this past week. It had to do with Jose Canseco, among others, and we want to talk to Kevin about that and many other things. Let's bring him up right now. Kevin Kennedy, manager of the Boston Red Sox. How you doing, sir? How you doing? Hi, Mike. Well, Kevin, an incredible off-season for you. The new regime comes in terms of the new general manager in Texas, and they decide to make a change. Johnny Oates is in, and you were without a job, but not for long because the Boston Red Sox hired you. Now, Jose Canseco ends up back with you in Boston.
A little bit of irony there.
For Otis Nixon and Luis Ortiz.
Right.
Is that highway robbery or grand larceny, or how would you describe
Mike,
that?
Come on, now. You know that was a good trade for both sides.
Whenever the coach said it was a good trade for both sides, you know who got the better of the trade. Hey, you know who got the better of that trade.
I'm talking to an athlete here.
If you were still manager of the Rangers, is that a trade you would have wanted to see happen?
I knew you were going to throw some questions at me tonight. I'm well prepared for that.
Okay.
It was a good trade for the Boston Red Sox. I understand what Doug Melvin's doing. Let me put it that way. He said he was going to go for defense and pitching. He got the defense with Otis Nixon. Let me say this. I'm not happy getting rid of Otis Nixon, a leadoff hitter, who can probably lead the major leagues in stolen bases this year. He would have if the season had continued. So we gave up a quality player. Guy's been through the playoffs with the Atlanta Braves, and It wasn't a gimme, but we were happy to get Canseco. He's a fly ball hitter. He's a pull hitter, basically. He has a chance to hit 50 home runs in Boston, and it's no secret that Jose and I had a good rapport and that I wanted him very badly, so it worked out for us. But if I was still managing Texas, I wouldn't have wanted to lose Jose Canseco, no.
As I understand it, ticket sales have been going crazy in Boston since word that Canseco is becoming a member of the Red Sox.
I talked to our general manager, Dan Duquette, who did a great job in getting this trade done. I mean, we worked about 6 weeks in this deal. We talked to Doug Melvin in Phoenix about it when we had the meetings there a few weeks ago. We reopened negotiations a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, it worked out. We're very happy. But I understand the Boston press thinks that we just got Babe Ruth. So maybe this will be the first World Series since 1918 for the Boston Red Sox.
Club's been trying to get Babe Ruth back for a long
Exactly.
time. Go to our studio audience now, Maddie Caldwell. Maddie?
Thank you very much, Mike. Gus here has the next question. He has been to the ballpark in Arlington. He has not yet been to Fenway Park. What's your question, Gus?
First of all, Kevin, congratulations on the trade, I guess. My question is, what's it like going from the newest ballpark to the oldest?
You know what? I'm managing in the major leagues. I'll manage anywhere. It'd be one of the 28 of us. But to be honest with you, I was very proud to be part of the Texas Rangers. They gave me the opportunity to manage in the major leagues for the first time. I had a year and a half here. The new ballpark was awesome, and it's still going to be awesome to come back and play Texas April 18th. But Fenway Park is history. And that left field wall, if you've ever been in Fenway Park, it only holds 35,000 people. People park downtown, they go to restaurants, and they walk to the ballpark. It's just baseball history, so it's quite a contrast. But as a matter of fact, the ballpark in Arlington was designed after some of the old ballparks, including Fenway. So it's going to be a lot of fun both ways.
We're back with more with Michael Irvin and Kevin Kennedy when we come back on Sports Waves. For now, give a listen to Dino and the Emerald City Band.
The Big Kahuna.
Number 81 of the New York Jets is Art Monk. 178 straight games with at least one reception, a new NFL record. Monk set the mark in honor of Redskins fans, where he spent most of his distinguished career. Art Monk, this week's Big Kahuna.
A sports wave from Emerald City. Welcome back, Sports Waves. Mike Doocy with Kevin Kennedy and Michael Irvin. We talk about your team next year, Kevin, assuming there will be a next year for Major League Baseball. The players seem to think that the latest proposal by the owners is just a salary cap in disguise. They seem to be going round and around. What is your gut feeling right now? We're going to see baseball in 95?
I think there's going to be baseball in 95. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone out and made the trades we made this past week. We also traded for a second baseman named Luis Alicea, who's a very good player from the St. Louis Cardinals this week. So Dan Duquette and the Boston Red Sox, we're going about it as if we're going to play in 95. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten Canseco.
Michael, when you look at it as a football player and see what the baseball players are going through right now, what the baseball owners are going through right now, you pay fairly close attention to it, knowing that at some point it could be you in that situation?
Well, I pay close attention to it, but I wish they would have went through it first, and then maybe we could have said, no, we're not having the salary cap, instead of the other way around. We going through it, and they're saying, see what it's doing to the football players? There's no way, and I back the players 100%. I don't think they need to come in and give up a salary cap, and that's basically telling the owners, look, we'll help you with your spending problems. Owners want winners, you know, and when they're starting to lose and they're losing money and they're losing revenues, they want to go out and spend for the big-time players, and I think if they want to do that, they should be able to do that and not have some salary cap stopping them.
Let's go back to our studio audience. Here's Mark Meter.
Thank you, Mike. I'm with Israel Cavazos, and I'll tell you, he's a musician by day, but a big sports fan by night. And he's got his fan club here with him also. Israel's got a question for Kevin Kennedy.
Yeah, Kevin, I was wondering,
Nolan Ryan's pitch had a hard changeup. I just wonder if you can elaborate on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Yeah, so when Kevin Ryan's so-called hard changeup.
Oh, Ken Ryan. I think you said Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan had a hard changeup.
No one's not coming back, is he?
Yeah. It must have been a whole lot of special on it. Can you expand on that?
Ken Ryan is a relief pitcher for us that we were not willing to part with. He was never involved in the deal with Otis Nixon. There was some talk about Ken Ryan in a trade a few weeks ago straight up for Canseco. We were not going to do that. Ken Ryan is going to be our closer next year. He throws about 95 miles an hour. He's got an excellent fastball and an outstanding overhand curveball. So he's about 25 years old, and he's a pitcher of the future for the Boston Red Sox.
Back to Canseco.
Power pitcher.
Canseco, just briefly, why are you able to get along with him when so many other managers seemingly cannot?
I think because Jose knew the times we both went through last year when I let him pitch in Boston, ironically. We both went through some tough times through the media, personally. You know, there was a lot of things on the line, and we kind of backed each other up, and we developed a bond because of that. And I didn't badmouth him in the press. I didn't say it was Jose's fault. I took the hit. It was my responsibility. I put him out there, even though he wanted to do it. And consequently, Jose never badmouthed me. He took the hit. So we developed a common bond, and that's what you have between players and management sometimes. And I like to have that rapport with all my players. It's not always true. I know when I left Texas, a couple of players took some shots at me. That's going to happen. But for the most part, I've been managing probably 2,000 games in professional baseball. I've never had a problem with the player. I've always had a good communication with my players.
Kevin Kennedy, thanks for stopping
My
by.
pleasure.
Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and stay seated there if you would, please. Well, it's time now for our celebrity pick 3. Last week, Jeff Foxworthy went 1 for 3 in his picks, but at least the comedian was funny while he was doing it. This week, jolly old St. Nick took some time out from answering his letters. He's a busy man this time of the year. He'll predict 3 games for us this week.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Well, with Cleveland and Pittsburgh, it's pretty clear that it's going to be Cleveland because the Steelers, every boy and girl knows you're not supposed to steal, so they haven't been very good this year. I'd have to go with Cleveland on that one. Well, for 3 times now, Buffalo has asked me for a Super Bowl victory. I don't know if I can give them that, but I think I can give them one over the New England Patriots. Well, Tampa Bay and Washington, I'm not sure. But the Buccaneers, that reminds me of Bucks. Thinking of Bucks with the reindeer, I'd have to go with Tampa Bay, or Rudolph would never forgive me.
Say you better watch out, you better not cry.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas and a good game to everybody.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
We want a quick pick out of each of you, if we could, on each game. Pittsburgh and Cleveland, big one.
They're really headed towards something special this year.
Who do you like, winner or loser, Cleveland, Pittsburgh?
I got to go with Cleveland. After if they can beat the Cowboys, I got to go with Cleveland.
Buffalo and New England.
I think New England will win the ball game. I think Buffalo, they'll lose Jim Keller, and I don't think they'll do real good this week.
I like what Bill Parcells has done, and now I'm going to be in New England, so I got to go with New England.
Suddenly you're a big Patriots fan. And that Washington-Tampa Bay showdown.
It seems like Washington, Tampa Bay always playing every week, and I think that's a pick'em game. I think Washington will beat them.
Got to give Norv Turner one. Go with Washington.
All right, that's our pick 3. Again, thanks to Kevin Kennedy for coming in. All of our guests on Sports Waves receive a custom suit from Lombardo Custom Apparel, America's finest clothier. Another reminder to sign up for our trip to go to Super Bowl 29. It's going to be a great time. Just go into any of the 5 Miami Subs Grills restaurants in Dallas. Enter our Super Bowl trip giveaway. You could be our guest in Miami for the big game. And we're coming back in a moment. Back on Sports Waves, along with Michael Irvin, I'm Mike Doocy. The wave line question for tonight was simply, who do you think the best team in the NFL is right now? We gave you a couple of choices, San Francisco, Dallas, well, any other team, actually, that you wanted to mention. Now, this is a predominantly Dallas audience, or Texas audience, anyway, that's watching this show. And still, 42% feel that San Francisco has overtaken the Cowboys as the best team. Cowboys get 50%, other teams with 8%. No doubt, Michael, the Niners are looking very strong right now. Is it possible that they've passed the Cowboys right now, in terms of how well they are clicking on both sides of the football?
Well, they're playing good football, but I would never sit here and say any team is a better football team than us. I don't think I can take that attitude on the football field. Whoever you play, you got to go on the football field. Not only knowing that you're on the best football team, but that you're one of the best players. You got to have that attitude.
What do the Cowboys have to concentrate on? Maybe one or two things in particular as they gear up now for the Saints on Monday night.
Well, I think what we got to focus in on is just eliminating mistakes. I mean, that's the key role. We got more talent than anybody. I think we got the physical players that we need. We just got to concentrate on eliminating mistakes. And once we do that, we'll be fine. And I think we'll do that this week.
Back to the studio audience. Here's Maddie.
Thank you, Mike. And Sean and James both have a question, and they're going to fight over who gets to ask it.
Yeah. Michael, I was just wondering how your new car's doing.
Well, my car is fine. As a matter of fact, Alvin did get it fixed.
For those who don't know, Alvin Harper had a minor fender bender with Michael's Mercedes.
Just a minor.
His black Mercedes. I said, Michael, what do you drive now? He said, well, the white Mercedes, of course. So. Quickly, Jimmy Johnson has announced that he is going to announce on Sunday whether he returns to coach next year or whether he stays with Fox. As a guy who knows Jimmy very well, what do you think?
Well, I would be amazed if he announced that he's going to any team next week. I mean, there's a couple weeks left to play in the season. I couldn't imagine. You're saying, I'm going to play for this team, like I'm going to coach Philadelphia, and they got a shot at going to the playoffs. I mean, I think that would devastate the team. So maybe he's not even going to coach this year.
If, and you've been asked this a million times, but if he decides he is going somewhere, going to be tempting for you to go along with him?
How did I know you were coming home with that? How did I know? You know what? I enjoy winning. I'm a horrible loser. I think my wife and anybody who knows me can attest to that. I am a horrible loser. And I've been through those poor seasons, and I don't want to go back to going through those poor seasons. I enjoy the situation I'm in right now, and that's winning a lot of football games and playing with a lot of guys that I truly love.
Michael Irvin, thanks for coming in. Always a pleasure to have you in. Thank you for joining us on Sports Waves as well. Big thank you to our guests, Kevin Kennedy, Jim Jeffcoat, Mike Tomczak, Santa Claus. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Special thanks to our corporate sponsors and to FAO Sports, helping Sports Waves with Christmas presents for some very special kids. Sports Waves, seen in over 40 markets across the U.S. and now can be seen on cable on News Sport. Check your local listings. I'm Mike Doocy. We'll see you next time on Sports Waves.
Custom Apparel, America's finest custom clothing. Accommodations in South Florida provided by the Marriott Key Largo Bay Beach Resort. And in Dallas, Jimmy Johnson and his guests stay at the beautiful Melrose Hotel. Sports Waves is a presentation of DCL Media and Lone Star Hospitality Corporation.